Hello, everyone. My name is Julie Evans, and I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Project Tomorrow. And my job today is to introduce you to Speak Up 2014 and provide you with some information about how your schools, your districts, your regional service centers, your states, your organizations can participate in Speak Up with us this year. So for today's discussion, we're going to start off talking about what is Speak Up. I'll give you a basic introduction to the research project. Then we'll talk about why you should participate in Speak Up this year. How do you participate? How do you get started today? And then we'll also leave some time for your questions, your thoughts, your comments. Thank you once again for joining us today. So Speak Up is facilitated every year by Project Tomorrow. Project Tomorrow is a national education nonprofit group. We have a particular interest in making sure that today's students are well prepared for the future, that they are receiving the type of learning experiences that will help prepare them to be tomorrow's leaders, innovators, and engaged citizens of the world. We address that mission by research and evaluation studies, programming around STEM education, and also advocacy for digital learning. We are probably best well known nationally for our Speak Up research project. So let me tell you a little bit about Speak Up to get started. It is an annual national research project that is conducted using online surveys in the fall and then followed up by focus groups in the spring. We create online surveys for K-12 students, teachers, parents, administrators, and community members to complete to share their ideas about digital learning, STEM education, STEM career awareness, and general topics around education. We also, every other year, have a special survey for pre-service teachers in schools of education. Now, we started the Speak Up research project in 2003 because at that point we saw a disconnect between how students were learning and living using technology outside of school, and the disconnect between that experience and how they were using technology or how technology was being provided to them to support their learning during their more formalized school experience. We were interested in closing that gap, closing that disconnect, and felt that by bringing to the forefront to the discussions both at the local, state, and federal levels, the voices of students in particular could help address that gap. Subsequently, we added on surveys, as I mentioned, for teachers, for parents, administrators, community members. Now, the research project is an unusual research project for two primary reasons. The first one is that we do not pre-select or identify schools and districts to participate in Speak Up each year. In fact, we make the online surveys available to any K-12 school or district or college school of education that wants to use the surveys to collect feedback from their own education stakeholders. We take the time and the research to create these online surveys, but then we make them available at absolutely no charge to any school or district that wants to use them. We handle all the data collection process for you and then give back to you an aggregated report of all of the findings from your stakeholders with the national data to use as a comparative. This is a service that we provide to schools and districts, again, at absolutely no cost. Now, we take the national data and share it each with Congress, I'll talk about that in a moment, as well as many other federal agencies, state organizations, legislatures, governor's offices, think tanks and research organizations, as well as nonprofit associations in the education space. But most importantly, our number one job is helping schools and districts better understand the views of their stakeholders to inform their plans going forward, particularly around digital learning. Now, since we started this project in 2003, we've had a little bit over 3.4 million surveys that have been submitted to us. Last year, we had a little bit over 400,000 online surveys that were submitted. And once again, since all the surveys are coming to us through schools and districts, not by individuals per se, it's also important to note that we had over 9,000 schools and 2,700 districts that participated with us. Because we use the NCES, U.S. Department of Education's demographic data on the back end of our database, we're able to see the percentage of schools that participate with us that are urban, rural, and suburban, that are Title I schools, that are majority minority schools. We did have participation last year from all 50 states, as well as some Department of Defense schools around the world, and also schools in Washington, D.C. Now, as I mentioned before, every year we share the national findings with Congress in Washington, D.C. We do that through 2 different congressional briefings where we release 2 different reports. These are the reports that we released last year. One report was focused in on the data from the K-12 students. The other one was more focused on the enablers of education, and that being the teachers, the administrators, and the parents. Now, both of these reports are available on our website, and we make them available to help schools and districts with their planning as well. As I said, we did do 2 congressional briefings last year. This particular photo is from the second one that we did in June that focused in on the use of digital tools to support college and career readiness. Every year we're very proud of the fact that our national findings are used by different federal agencies to inform their plans, and the same at the state and local levels as well. The types of questions that are on the Speak Up survey are around learning and teaching with technology in general. We have different questions for different audiences. We ask parents, for example, about internet safety concerns. We ask teachers about their needs for professional development. We ask administrators about the challenges they face. It's one of my favorite questions. We ask administrators what wakes them up in the middle of the night as an indication of their priorities or the challenges that they have. We ask all the respondents, and once again, those are the students, the educators, as well as the parents and community members, to talk to us about the role of emerging technologies both in and out of the classroom. Now, those emerging technologies change from time to time. Currently, we're asking about mobile devices, online learning, digital content, games, social media, those type of things. Now, what makes the Speak Up surveys a little unusual is that we ask 3 different perspectives on the role of emerging technologies. We ask the respondents what they're doing with these technologies. So, how are you using a mobile device to help you with learning? Have you had experience with taking an online class? But in addition to counting what they're doing, we also ask the respondents to talk to us about their value propositions and their aspirations. So, do you think that educational games would be beneficial in the classroom? Do you like the idea of using social media to connect with classmates or with your teacher? And then the idea of aspirations, we also ask all the respondents to help us design the perfect school or the ultimate school, the dream school for the future. We call it the Designing the 21st Century School question. And we ask them to rank different types of digital tools from a comparative perspective as what would be absolutely essential to help today's students with learning. It's also one of my favorite questions, and it happens to be a favorite question of many superintendents and school boards because it gives them a very clear perspective in terms of where their stakeholders are on many of the digital learning initiatives that they are supporting. Now, we do have new questions every year. Really based on what we hear and the research that we do working with our schools and districts that participate with us, as well as our over 100 different nonprofit partners in the Education Association space. This year we're asking some new questions around the privacy of student data. We're asking some questions about digital badging, particularly around teacher professional development. We're asking students about their interest in coding, programming. We know that's a really hot topic right now. We're also talking to our educators about some of the results from their online assessment pilots and the importance of E-rate funding. And then as a new question this year, we asked parents as well as students to talk to us about the ideal mobile app. Lots of schools and districts are interested in getting involved with creating a mobile app to help connect their students as well as the parents and the homes into the school environment. And so what type of features and functionality would be most interesting? So that'll be a really particularly fascinating bit of data for many schools and districts that are on that path. Now let's talk about why schools and districts participate and speak up with us. Every couple of years we poll our participating schools and districts to ask them that question. So what is it about the Speak Up process that intrigues you enough or interests you enough that you participate every year? And so we hear lots of different things from our participating schools and district leaders. There's something very powerful around the idea of local data in particular. So quite often we will hear from district administrators that as they start up a new digital learning initiative or a new education reform initiative or some new way of approaching student learning, there's occasionally some naysayers in the crowd who may say, well, that's really interesting, but I think that our students have a different perspective or have different needs, or our parents want different things, or our teachers are more interested in a different approach. What Speak Up gives you the opportunity to do is have right there at the ready your own localized data, what your students really believe, what your parents really think, what your teachers' perspectives really are. And so then you can counteract some of those naysayers who may be out there to help advance your particular initiatives, to really be able to create that shared vision for the future going forward without having to second guess whether this is appropriate for your community. We know that many schools and districts also use the data to justify budgeting or purchasing decisions or to inform new initiatives all across the country over the last couple years. School and district leaders have used their Speak Up data to inform mobile learning initiatives, particularly around the idea of bring your own device to school. Do our students have the devices that they can bring to school? Would our parents be responsive in terms of purchasing a device for our child to use if that was available, if that was something we wanted to pursue? So it's been very interesting to watch how the Speak Up data can serve very local interests. Some other districts have used it for grant writing and fund development or as the basis for professional development. Now, the other thing that I think is particularly interesting is that with some of the assumptions or mythology, as I like to call it, that's out there around digital learning and the use of digital tools, it is becoming increasingly apparent to many school and district leaders that they need to create a new digital learning playbook. Not necessarily a new education technology plan, but a new way of thinking about learning that is digitally enhanced for their students as well as for their teachers. And so the idea of counteracting some of that mythology or hitting head-on some of those assumptions is usually a good first step in terms of thinking about this new digital learning playbook. Now, in my travels around the country, and particularly my opportunity to spend time with different policymakers around the country, I quite often will hear about some of these commonly heard education mythology, some of these assumptions or conventional wisdom, as some people call it, that people hold on to, probably holding on to it a little bit too long. But we do still hear these things, and so it's interesting to think about these and then also think about how the Speak Up data can help you counteract some of these myths or some of these assumptions that are out there. So for example, quite often folks will say to me, well, there really isn't any sort of educational benefit to using mobiles in the classrooms. Kids just want to use it to access social media or to play games. And in fact, many of our evaluation studies and the focus groups that I do with students all around the country totally counteracts that particular myth that's out there. There also is this myth held by some folks that all we need to do is put technology in the classroom, and you can sort of put whatever type of technology you want into that statement. And just like magic, students will learn more. And I'm sure for many of us that are here visiting today and watching this particular Google Hangout, you know that it's a lot more complicated than that. It takes a lot more sophistication and strategy in terms of getting the impact of technology in the classroom. And so it's a good idea to think about these myths and to be cognizant of these myths and to be able to use your Speak Up data to counteract that. So really the bottom line in terms of why to participate in Speak Up is to first think about what type of information do you need to know about the views of your students, their parents, the teachers in your schools, and your community members to inform your digital learning plans today. How would you use that information to move forward, to either create that new digital learning playbook or to advance some of the initiatives that you have and address some of the educational goals that are pressing within your community? So think about that type of information and think about the ways that the Speak Up data can help you. So let's talk now a little bit about how to participate in Speak Up. And there's really a couple different ways that we can look at this. The first way is to think about it as an individual. So you as an education stakeholder, whether you might be a teacher, an administrator, a technology leader, maybe even a community member. So there is obviously the opportunity for you to share your voice and to be able to have that impact at the national level in terms of having your thoughts around digital learning included in the national Speak Up data set. But it's also important to think about how you can facilitate opportunities for your students, the parents of those students, the rest of your school community to also participate in Speak Up. So we're going to look at it from both perspectives. We'll take the first perspective as an individual and sort of walk through how any individual participates in Speak Up, what the different screens look like, how you interact with Speak Up, what are the steps involved. So think about that both from your standpoint of completing a Speak Up survey as well as how you would promote this out to participation within your schools and districts. So the first thing is that there is a Speak Up for Schools landing page. The URL is listed here, and I gave you a little screenshot of what that page looks like. It's very easy to get to. It is web-based, so you can access this 24/7 from any web-enabled computer. It does not need to just be within school. Students can participate this from home. Many parents tell us they actually fill out the surveys from their work environment. So the first step is to promote this particular URL out to your respondents, the folks that you want to take the survey, and they will come to a screen that looks like this. They'll then have a number of buttons that they can choose based on what their role is. So if they were a student, they then click into that large green button that's right up there at the top. Otherwise, there's some other buttons here for the other different types of surveys that we offer: parents, educators, community members. Under the Educator button, there actually are multiple different options there. So the teachers come into that Educator button, the librarians come in through that portal, as do the administrators and technology leaders as well. When you come in through any one of the buttons, the first thing that you're asked is to either give your state name, or if you know your zip code from your particular school or district, you enter that there. From that, it'll give you a list of different schools that are within that community. So that might be for a particular zip code. It's going to give you the types of schools that are already existing within that particular community, or within a state, it will give you all of the state schools. If you were a student, you would just simply click then on your participating school. Same thing if you're a teacher or if you're an administrator. If you're a parent, you may have multiple children in school. You choose one to be able to access the survey. If you are a community member and you are tied to a particular school, maybe you volunteer at a particular school, or you live in a community, a neighborhood where you have a neighborhood school, you can click on that school, or you can bypass that button at that point. Now, if you're a student, you then get to this next screen where it asks you for a particular grade type of survey. So if you are, for example, a student in grade 6, you then would click on the button that says grade 6 to 8. If you're an elementary student, you have two options there: the kindergarten, first and second grade survey, or the grade 3, 4, and 5 survey. Now, both of those surveys for elementary school that are listed on this screen are for individual input by the students. For elementary school, we give two options. The first option is for the students to individually complete their own survey. So that's having a third grader who maybe has a laptop or a tablet who's going to fill out his or her own survey. They will need to read the survey and then click the appropriate responses. We work very hard to get those elementary surveys to particular reading levels, but as many of you know, with technology terms, it's very hard to get to particular reading levels with those younger surveys, younger students. And so we also offer a group survey, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about the group surveys in a moment. But just know that we offer both opportunities to be able to facilitate surveys for students that are good, solid readers and are comfortable with doing the survey on their own, as well as those students that maybe are not at that level and want to have a group survey that's facilitated by their teachers. Now, for the student survey, we do require a password or a secret code, as we call it, for the students to enter to access the student survey. Now, many schools and districts pick their own password. In some cases, they use something that is familiar to the student, maybe a mascot name, or something else that's pertinent for them. We also have state-level passwords, and so many states have mandated a similar password within their state. It helps them with promotion out to the schools and districts, or we have a default password as well. Now, on the educator survey, when you come in through that educator button, you're then given the option to respond to either the teacher survey, the librarian survey, or the administrator survey. And this year we gave some explanation of who should take which survey. In the past, there's been a little bit of confusion. In some cases, our librarians, in many cases, are considered as teachers, but didn't realize that there was a special survey just for them that was very appropriate for the types of job responsibilities they have. And so we made it more clear this year in terms of what that explanation is. The format then is the same. Once you click on your role as teacher, administrator, or if you're a school or district employee, not a teacher or administrator, it then takes you right into the respective appropriate survey. Now, here's an example of what the individual survey looks like on the first page for the students. It has a little bit of introductory text. Of course, we are very much stress with all of our respondents the confidentiality of the information that they are sharing. The only information that we collect from students that could be deemed as demographic is their grade and their gender. There is nothing else on the student survey that could be used to identify any particular student, so you do not need to be concerned about that. We are not interested from a research standpoint in looking at individual student data, but rather in terms of aggregated data at the school level, at the district level, at the state, and at the national level. Now, on the adult surveys, the surveys for teachers, parents, administrators, community members, we do have a series of optional demographic questions at the end of the survey. So, for example, we ask teachers about the number of years of experience that they have had teaching. We ask parents their age. We ask parents about family income. We ask administrators about their educational levels, what type of degrees or certificates they have. Again, those questions are optional. They help us in terms of better understanding some of that adult data because we do some very interesting disaggregation of that data on the back end. But once again, they are optional. It is much more important to us that we collect the aggregated data than any individual data, and that is not our focus. So from a confidentiality, privacy standpoint, we feel very strongly about the way we have protected your student data and your the confidentiality of your respondents. So the individual students will come into a survey page that looks like this. They will click on that big button that starts the survey, and that will then take them into a series of questions. Most of those questions are multiple choice questions where the students have the opportunity to choose one or multiple responses. And then for the student survey, we also offer one or two open-ended questions at the end of the survey that are more thought-provoking questions where we're asking students to think about the value of different things. Those questions are actually very interesting from a teacher standpoint in terms of making it as an assignment. We're happy to share those open-ended responses with all of you, so it's not just for our collection, and so many teachers are using that as part of a lesson plan. Okay, so I showed you a little bit about how the survey process works from an individual standpoint, either for you taking the survey yourself or when you promote it out to your stakeholders. But let's talk a little bit more about your promotion within your organization, your school, your district, your regional service center, or your state. So a couple things I want to share with you. Let's talk a little bit more about these group surveys that I gave you a little bit of a sneak peek at before. So understanding that reading levels are difficult to get to in terms of these elementary surveys, particularly around technology terms, we have available as an option a group survey. So for the kindergarten, first, and second grade students, there is an opportunity for the teacher to ask the questions in the class, have his or her students raise their hand. The teacher counts the number of hands raised, quite literally, and then inputs that aggregated total. So for example, when we ask a question of students, and one of the questions we ask the students is about their access to different types of mobile devices that they may have for their own personal use, if we ask the the fifth graders, for example, do you have a tablet that you use at home? A number of students may raise their hand. The teacher will count up the number of students that raise their hand, and then he or she will input that number into the appropriate response on the online survey. So it is a special survey that is set up specifically for teacher input for kindergarten through fifth grade. Now, if you are interested in using the individualized survey with your students, I should let you know that that kindergarten, first and second grade survey is about a reading level of beginning second grade. So that could be something that could be used by some kindergarten and first graders. More appropriately, the group survey will probably be your better option. For the grades 3, 4, and 5 survey, that reading level is appropriate for that age group. But in some cases, folks are more comfortable using the teacher-collected approach. We also offer group surveys for parents, and some schools and districts have set this up where they will have parents come in maybe for a PTA meeting or a PTO meeting and then have them complete the survey there. In some cases, they've opened up their computer labs and given their parents opportunity to take the individualized survey or to be able to participate, again, in the same way as I talked about with the elementary grades, in a group format where a facilitator will read the question, people will raise their hands, they'll collect that data and input that in the online process. That group survey is also available for community members. So if you are having a community open house, or maybe you're having a community meeting of some kind, it could even be a city meeting, and want to be able to collect some information from your community members, that exists as well. Now for the parent survey, we also have the parent survey available in Spanish, and that is available in the group format in Spanish as well as English. And so again, in some communities, it's really important to get that parent input, and so we try and make this as easy as possible. Now I should probably stress to you that this is not an all or nothing type participation project. Many schools and districts come in and make strategic decisions about the types of audiences that they want to participate and speak at. So you may have a survey that you're already using for your teachers that serves your needs, serves your interests, and so you don't need to use our Speak Up teacher survey, but you may not have a survey for parents, or you may not have something for your students. So feel free to use which or any of the particular surveys you want. By signing up to participate in Speak Up, you are not committing to use all the surveys or even to facilitate it with all your schools. It's rather a process that's available to you, and you make the decision and use your discretion as to what are the most important audiences. Now again, we have surveys for K-12 students, teachers, librarians, school site administrators, district administrators, technology leaders, parents, and community members. Let me talk a little bit more about parents and community members before we move on here. So starting with community members, the community member survey is sort of a broad survey, and it came to us as a request from many schools and districts who wanted to find out about what were the perceptions of digital learning from their much broader community, from the businesses that were in their community, the employers, from the folks that worked in after-school programs or in informal learning environments, local museums, libraries. They also wanted to find out about the views around digital learning and education in general from the parents who maybe do not have children in school yet. And so their children are too young to be in kindergarten or in preschool, and so they were interested in those views, as well as parents whose children had already graduated from the local schools. And so as part of that, we created this community survey. It asks some of the questions that are very similar on the parent survey, but with a slightly different perspective, a slightly broader perspective. We also have found that many districts are using that community member survey to get the views of their staff or their employees that are not teachers or not administrators. So that might be administrative staff, it might be your transportation staff, your staff that's involved with food service, or some of your business operations. So it's a very interesting survey, and we're getting a lot of interest across the country in that particular data. That survey was new last year, and so this is really our first full year of having it included in the Speak Up portfolio. Now, the parent survey is a particular survey that's of very high interest to me because I know from my conversations with school superintendents all across the country, it is sometimes hard to really put your finger or get a pulse on parent viewpoint. You may very well have that pulse point from your parents that are very actively involved in your school, who are the folks that are on the PTA board, in your booster group. They are room moms, they participate in all your different activities, come to your different activities on campus. But there also is another whole group of parents that either don't have the time or the opportunity to participate at that same level. And so it's interesting to use that parent survey to get a broader perspective on the views of all of your parents, not just the parents you see every day on campus. So as part of our support to schools and districts, the Speak Up team here has created a very wealthy, let's say, website of resources for you. So within the Speak Up toolkit, let's call it, on our website, tomorrow.org, you can find all kinds of information to help you participate in Speak Up, help you promote it within your schools or districts. So there's a basic section about Speak Up. There's a whole range of different promotional materials. We're going to take a look at that in a moment. There's an FAQ section, and so we have tried to take every question that we've ever gotten and put it there in the FAQ. If it isn't there, please feel free to contact us. And then there's also a way for you to view the surveys themselves. So if you want to take a look at the survey questions, you just click right there and they'll take you into having a look at all the different survey questions. What I find is a lot of school and district leaders want to take a look at the survey questions to start with that planning process. So how am I going to use this data when I get it back in February? How is it going to impact my plans in the spring, and most importantly, my plans for the follow-on school year? And so by taking a look at the questions and the responses, you can start those wheels in motion in terms of thinking about planning. I also think it's really important when you're promoting out the idea of participating in Speak Up to your schools, within your district, to your teachers, to the parents of your students, even to your students themselves, to explain to them how this data is going to impact change or impact planning within your school or district. Now, you may not have that plan already put together, but to make a signal or to give a signal out to your respondents that this is important data. This is data that is not just going to go into a black hole somewhere or into a report somewhere, but something that you're actually going to use. You're going to look at the responses of those students. You're going to think concretely about parents' insights about digital learning. Really signals the importance and signals the opportunity for parents to have a voice at the local level. Now, many schools and districts also will stress out to their respondents, again, the students, the teachers, the parents most notably, that Speak Up provides a very unique opportunity for your community to have a voice in national and state policy. Since we share with Congress, as I mentioned to you before, as well as many state governors' offices, state legislatures, think tanks, research organizations, different advocacy groups in education, the Speak Up data, it's really important to me personally that we have a good representative sampling of all the different views that are out there. And so I hope that your school and community will participate in Speak Up so that your voices can be part of that larger data set as well. So in terms of promotional materials, I mentioned this before, we've done all the heavy lifting for you. So we have flyers that are already created, we have introductory text, we have banner ads that you can put on your website. I'm always so excited when I go to different district websites and I see our Speak Up banners right there on the homepage, making it super easy for their respondents to find their way to the survey. We also have information there about lesson plans for teachers that may want to incorporate Speak Up and particularly student voice into lesson plans or activities in the classroom, as well as opportunities if you want to release a press statement about your participation in Speak Up. Those samples are there for you as well. Now, the other thing that we do for you is that throughout the survey process, we will provide to you an ongoing count of how many surveys have been submitted, and if you're at the district level, from what school, if you're at the state level, from what district. Same thing for the education service centers and states where that's appropriate. So we have you have an administrative password. You may very well be the contact within your school or district, but there's a special administrative password that then gives you the opportunity to see all the different counts that are coming in. At this point, you can't see the data, but you can see what schools have participated, whether the students have participated, the parents have participated, how many teachers have participated. So at the school level, this report will look like it is for your particular school. At the district level, it will look at from a district perspective. This one happens to be for a service center, and so it's looking at it from a service center perspective. We also have on our website, and this is new for the last couple of years, a really interesting map. And so if you're interested in seeing who's participating in Speak Up to a great degree, if your state is participating in Speak Up, you can go to this map that's on our tomorrow.org site, and you can see based on the colors in terms of what sort of Speak Up participation we have. So currently our leading states in terms of the number of surveys submitted actually are California and Indiana, which is very interesting. Texas always has really strong participation, so we know we'll see stronger participation there. And then you can see the varying levels, all the way down to sort of the light level where they've had some participation, but we know they're going to come in a little bit stronger. If you were to click on many of the states here within our map, it actually takes you to a state-specific website that we have within our tomorrow.org site. This one happens to be for the state of Wisconsin. And so in helping our friends in the state of Wisconsin promote Speak Up, we've created this special page within our site specifically for them, where they can also populate with some state-specific data, as well as some interesting things that may be happening around their Speak Up participation, whether they have special events or special announcements or some testimonials from folks within their states. So many of the states, we have created these state pages for them upon their request. So you might want to take a look at that from the map page as well. And then finally, before we get into maybe some of your questions that you might have, I also want to share with you that, as I said before, Speak Up is first and foremost a service that we provide to schools and districts. So step one right now is facilitating the surveys for you to collect the data. Most importantly for your interest is when you get that data back from us. And so the beginning of February, you will get access to online reports that will take you through every single one of the different survey audiences and what your aggregated totals are for all of the different questions. If you are from a district, you will have access to this for each one of your participating schools as well as at the district level. If you're a school, you'll have access to it for your own particular school. But that might be for your students, it might be the survey data from your teachers, from your parents. This includes not only the quantitative data that's on the multiple choice questions, but the open-ended responses as well. Now the other thing that we provide to you is not only the percentage of students that answered this question or that question from your school or district, but we also give you the state data as well as the national data as well. That is really helpful in terms of comparatives. You know, any particular school or district, and I know many do, can create their own survey and collect data from your own respondents. There's lots of different tools that do that out there. What we think is particularly valuable around Speak Up is that we give you this comparative data so that you can see how you compare either within your state or nationally, either from your perspective of your students or what your parents are telling you or what your teachers are telling you. Many different schools and districts have used that data to actually go back out into their community and explain to their community why they are moving down a particular road around a digital learning initiative, or even why they need to pass a particular funding measure, maybe a bond measure or a parcel tax within their community to support new investments. By having that national data as a comparative, you have the opportunity to give a general feel for where your respondents are, where the views of your students are, your teachers, your parents, compared to the overall nation. So we think that's particularly important. By signing up to be a contact for Speak Up within your district, we will send these reports directly to you. Now, we do not share these reports nationally. We only share the national data, or at the state level, we share state data. We are not in the gotcha business. We are not in the business of comparing one district to another. We give you this data so that you can use it, but please feel very comfortable and confident that we don't share your data with anyone else. If you want to take your data and share it out to your community, and many districts do that, many schools do that, that's at your discretion. Some do some special analysis of it, pull out specific questions and share it, but that is available to you and that is at your discretion. So how do you get started today? So you're interested in participating in Speak Up? It's pretty easy, actually. Going to this particular website, we have the link here on speakupforschools.org/speakup2014. You can register as your school or district contact. All that means is that you are our contact person in terms of sending information about Speak Up, making sure that you get access to those counts so you know what your participation numbers are, and then you will be the person that we will alert when the reports are ready for your information. Again, we do not share that list with anyone else. You then actually take that same URL, and that's your survey link for promoting out to your targeted audiences. So once again, whether you decide to have students complete the survey, teachers, parents, the rest of your administrative team, or you promote it out to your community, all you need to do is promote out that link. And again, that will take them to that page with the buttons. They choose which button, which role they play, and that takes them into the survey. And then, as I've been saying all along, the idea of planning how you're going to use your Speak Up data in the spring is also a good thing to start thinking about. So with that, I'm hoping that we have intrigued you enough to say welcome to Speak Up. Now, if you do have some additional questions or need some more help, I want to make sure that you meet our fabulous team here who are available to help you through whether it is setting up yourself as a contact, understanding some of the promotional materials, or answering any questions you may have. Jenny Hossard is our amazing Speak Up Operations Manager, and so I provide for you here her phone number with her direct connection as well as her email link. Supporting Jenny is Lisa Chu, who is our Program Support Coordinator, with her contact information as well. Lisa is involved with doing a lot of our social media, and so if you're not currently following Speak Up or Project Tomorrow on Twitter or being part of our Facebook group, please feel free to do that, to join us there, and you'll begin seeing some of that information coming out through social media as well as directly to you. And then I also provide to you my contact information as well. So you are in good company at this point with Speak Up. As of a little bit over an hour and 20 minutes ago. I know the numbers have changed already. We have already had 142,000 voices or surveys that have been submitted to us, sharing their ideas about digital learning this year. You can see the breakdown there from the different audiences. So we are on a fast track in terms of probably getting to a little bit over 400,000 surveys submitted again this year, and hope that you will join us. There is a lot more information that's available about Speak Up on our website. I've shared a lot of it with you here, but you might want to take a look at some of those reports that we have as well. So with that, I'm going to stop talking for a moment. If you have some particular questions, I believe that you can put those into the chat box, and we'll take a look at those questions and hopefully answer them for you. Once again, it is truly our pleasure to have this opportunity to share with you information about how to participate in Speak Up this year. I have included here again my contact information. Happy to continue this conversation with you outside of the Google Hangout if you are interested in that. I also provide for you our Twitter handles. There's my personal Twitter handle as well as the one for Speak Up specifically, which is Speak Up Ed. And so please feel free to follow us on Twitter to get more information about what's happening with all things Speak Up. It was noted on the first screen, but I probably should make sure that you know this again. The surveys opened a couple weeks ago. They will be open until December 19th. And so if you would like to participate, please do so prior to December 19th. At that point, we will close down the Speak Up surveys. And then again, the date is the beginning of February, first week in February. I think it's actually February 5th. You'll be getting back your localized Speak Up data, either at the state or district or school level, as well as that national data for comparatives. So if anyone has any questions, you can put those in the chat box, and we'd be happy to hang around here at the Hangout for a couple moments and see if you have any sort of questions for us. Thank you. Once again, folks, thanks so much for joining us today. It's been great to have you here with us. I hope that we provide some valuable information to you about Speak Up 2014 and that you will keep in touch with us and plan to participate. Thanks a lot. Have a good day.